Okay, when we're multiplying and dividing integers, you really just got to think, what does the fox say? So let's go ahead and make a fox. There's his little ears. Okay, so then he has his two eyes and his mouth. Okay, the reason that you want to think about that is if it says, or if it gives you two negatives, for instance, so let's say that it gives you two negatives. You would cover the two negatives, leaving you with that positive. If it gives you a negative and a positive, let's see if we can rotate this. If it gives you a negative and a positive, you would cover up one negative, one positive, leaving you with a negative. But ultimately, what you need to know is if you have an even number of negatives, then the total or the simplification will be positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, then it's going to come out being negative. Now, friendly little reminder, even numbers are like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so forth. Odd is 1, 3, 5, so forth, okay? So even, if it's an even number, it's going to be a positive outcome. If it's an odd number of negatives, then it's going to come out negative. So let's go ahead and start with some of these. Okay, so the first thing I do is I count my negatives, okay? So I've got 1, 2 negatives. 2 is a positive number, therefore I know my entire sum is going to be, or my entire product is going to be positive. So it's a positive number. Now that's 14 times 1. 14 times 1 is 14. So it's a positive 14, therefore I would just write 14. Okay, start by looking at my negatives. I've only got one negative, therefore that's an odd number, so I've got a negative. Okay, 3 times 10 is 30. Done. Another way I think about this, guys, is you know how your parents tell you 2 wrongs don't make a right? Well, in math world, 2 wrongs do make a positive, or 2 negatives do make a positive, okay? So that's another thing to think of when you're counting up your negatives. Look, 1, 2, 2 negatives, 2 wrongs, they do make a right. So therefore, I know this one is going to be positive. And then 10 times 6 is 60. So that's a positive 60, so we would just write 60. Okay, count up your negatives. You've got 1 negative. Therefore, the whole thing is going to be negative. And then 4 times 2 is 8. Remember, you could also go back to the fox if you wanted to. Multiple ways to do this. So you've got these. You were given a negative and a positive. So look, you were left with that negative. Okay? If you go back, let's do that for, well, okay, never mind. Here is a 1, 2, 3 negatives. 3 is odd, therefore the whole thing is going to be negative. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. Another way you could have done this is you could have, let's bring this down. You could have actually simplified. So you could have said, okay, 2 negatives does make a positive, so that's positive. 2 times 2 is 4. Bring down your negative 2. And now a positive and a negative makes a negative. 4 times 2 is 8. Either way, both are correct. All right, let's talk about dividing. So it's the exact same rules for dividing, okay? So for dividing, 2 wrongs do make a right. So a negative and a negative is a positive. So this is going to be a positive number. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. And remember, you don't write plus 2. You would just write 2 as my answer. Okay, I've only got 1 negative. Therefore, that's odd. So the whole thing is going to be negative. And then 5 divided by 5 is 1. Once again, you can use your fox. Okay, let's see. We have a negative on top, positive on the bottom. Therefore, my whole quotient is going to be negative. Okay, Let's start with the fox on this one this time, just to give you different options. Okay. I'm given a negative 36 and a negative 6. Therefore, I know it's going to end up positive. Okay, so this is going to be a positive number. Or you could just say to yourself, okay, 2 wrongs do make a right. Negative and negative is a positive. And then 36 divided by 6 is 6. So I would write just 6, not positive 6. And last one. All right, so I have a positive and a negative. So I only have one negative. Therefore, my whole quotient is going to be negative. And then 49 divided by 7 is 7. Okay?